Let's talk about a totally different subject, happiness. And I want to ask you because you're European, you might have a different view. You also do something I like to do. I like to spend time in other cities for a while. So you
Hmm.
spend most of your time in Austin, and then I guess half or some of your time in Estonia.
Typically summer,
Summers,
yeah.
summers.
Hmm.
What do you get out of that, going back and forth?
Well, I am from Estonia, so there's family, there's friends, all that stuff. I also have kids. I have two kids.
Mhm.
They're bilingual. I only speak Estonian to my kids,
Hmm.
and so it's also important that we're raising them as you're from both places, and you can't be from both places if you don't go there.
Mm.
So every summer of their life they've spent there. This fall, they also went to Estonian schools
Oh,
for one quarter because in Texas, due to COVID, there was no in-person school, and in Estonia, the COVID was very low.
hmm.
So that's the key reason. So it has to do with my roots. Also, in Estonia, I have a cabin in the woods. So I live in a log house in the forest of South Estonia. So it's a contrast to the city life in Austin. So I'm there breathing with the trees.
And does that make you happy when you're there?
Totally. And every summer it's the same thing. I feel like I'm totally fine being there, tending to the trees and chopping logs, and I could also never go back to the tech and business. Um, of course, I'm sure I'd get bored in no time.
Yeah,
But
if you
I
did it all the
feel
time.
like there's a frequency in the air. It's a slower place, and also calms down my own brain. And after my summer retreat or pilgrimage, as I call it, I go back to work. Then I feel so much extra amp in me, like I'm ready to go.
Do you feel a little bit out of the loop when you're out there? You're chopping a log and you don't have Wi-Fi. Do you feel like everyone's passing you by, or?
Not passing by, but I do feel out of the loop. But also, it's like my level of caring also drops. So I know I'm out of the loop,
Mm.
but I don't care about it. So I do need to rely and trust other people more to do
Hmm.
their thing. And then it's been my experience that without me, the company is just doing fine, holding steady. So the value that I bring to the company, I am a starter. I'm a creative guy. I have so many ideas, and I'm like, screw it, let's do it. The Branson style. So I bring a lot of that, and without me, that is like missing.
Hmm.
But like what's already there, they can maintain it and keep it steady, real good.
What do you think the purpose of life is to do?
Recently there was the Day of All Souls, and so I'm a big, let's say, traditions guy.
Hmm.
So I put the photos of me and my wife. We put the photos of our ancestors out there for kids to see, and
Mm.
and we're thinking about my mom and dad who are both past grandparents, and and then I was thinking like my grandparents were just super hard workers. Like they lived a very long life, and until even in the late 80s, like chipping away at the garden and like doing something. And now, you know, 20 years after they've died, like what was the point of that? And then I think like you find meaning through work.
Hmm.
It's not that there was a legacy that remained of them, like the trees that they planted. It's somebody else's house now.
Mm.
So I think um, looking reflecting on that is like you need to be happy. You need to do things that give you joy, and you find meaning through work. So now you and me, we're think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
We don't have shelter and food and those issues. Like maybe you do.
I live in the studio, yeah.
And so the way I think of myself, I'm only operating on the tip of the pyramid, which is the self actualization.
Hmm.
Like that's the only concern I have for myself. I'm like I have everything I need. I have a house, I have a car, I have children, I have a lovely wife, I have a best job in the world. I have everything. So it's all about like what else can I achieve with my potential? So I'm working on things that are interesting for me, and I'm creating goals that are just made up just for the heck of it. Like decided to win at capitalism for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And
Well, I also think you routinely put yourself back down on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you're out in the cabin, I imagine your danger level goes up. You
no,
have to
not
be a
really.
little bit more reliant on yourself. You have to chop wood.
I mean, there is. I mean, it's not like a survival issue. I mean, I still have money and I can buy stuff, you know.
Hmm.
So, um, it's just that it's still a conscious choice that I choose to chop the tree. I could pay a guy, you know.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It's just fun. Yeah, it's just a change of
I
pace.
remember hearing an Earl Nightingale story. He was talking to a CEO who tried to optimize everything in his life, and this was back in the 60s. So he
Hmm.
hired a secretary to type things, someone to mail stuff, someone to dry clean his clothes, all cook, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he said he was actually less effective and just not as happy when everything was done for him.
Hmm.
So he was just like, I have to do some stuff myself to feel like a human,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like
Right.
occasionally I have to take a bag of garbage outside.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like you decide what is interesting for you, and you optimize your life in a way that easy there.
We'll leave that in.
You optimize your life in a way that you do a minimal amount of shit that you don't want to do or you're not good at. And like in my job as a CEO and a founder, and like at CXL we're like some 40 people,
Mhm.
like most of the stuff that I work on I truly enjoy. Some stuff is necessary evil that I don't enjoy. Like I don't enjoy spending too much time in spreadsheets, but like I have to.
Mhm.
And like all the operation stuff that I have a head of operations, but still I'm involved operationally. I don't enjoy recruiting, but all the key hires I have to be involved.
Mhm.
So there are things that you have to do. Also managing people. I am not a great natural manager. I'm more like let's say a visionary. Let's go build it type of guy.
Mhm.
But if you're a leader at a company, you manage people. It's inevitable. So you need to be, I think, like decently good at most things and like really great at some things. You can't horribly suck at some things at certain level.